Can you? That's a serious question.
So with Martin Van Buren running as the Free Soil candidate, he undermines his former party, the Democrats, and this for the first time is a sectional party. The Whigs, despite being more popular in the North than in the South, the Whig Party was not sectional. There were Whigs in the North, Whigs in the South, and Whigs on top of people's heads. In the Democratic Party, there were Democrats in the North and in the South, but there were Democrats all over. There were no Free Soil Party members in the South, like maybe 3 of them, but that's about it.
What were conscience Whigs?
Good question. Conscience Whigs are people who are anti-slavery Whigs, that they kind of supported the American system, but that they believed that the Whig position, as espoused by Zach Taylor, of not having a position was immoral, and that since they want to limit slavery, that their conscience bound them to abandon their Whig principles and actually side with Van Buren, who was a Democrat. So I guess I sort of misspoke there, that they don't despise the American system, but they believe the slavery issue is more so. And barn burner Democrats, which means that because the Democratic Party was strongest in the South, it could never take a position that in any way was against slavery. And so as a Democrat, to take a position against slavery, opponents called them barn burners, because it was the idea that they would rather burn their own barn down, the barn representing their political party. They'd rather burn the barn down than continue to go along with slavery, that they were that extreme in their views. And that was the Free Soil Party. Taylor wins, seeing as he's not Henry Clay, and he's a very popular war general. He's killed more people than some of the other candidates, being a successful general. His electoral victory was rather narrow, and the fact that the vote was split in New York, which is largely due to the fact that Martin Van Buren is from there and does not win, but takes enough of the vote away from Lewis Cass that Taylor's victory is assured. So that's all. You don't need to know some of the other stuff. It's rather quick. The next major issue we talked about as a consequence, so effect of the Mexican War, was the massive expansion of territory, Manifest Destiny. And in that massive chunk of territory, it was unclear what the stance of slavery would be. As I've referred to, there were 3 positions. Some were beginning to argue that slavery follows the flag, that slavery should be open in all of the territories. On the other extreme, you had those beginning to say that slavery should be banned in all the territories, the non-extension of slavery to the federal territories. And then in the middle, you had those who espoused popular sovereignty, that the people there could decide. We'll actually flesh out that diagram in a little bit, but keep that in mind, that there's people on all parts of the spectrum. Well, California throws a wrench in the plan, because people thought, those in power, in government, thought that there would be plenty of time to sort out these issues as time went on, as states gradually followed the natural progression of east to west. California threw a wrench in that plan, and you could blame the 49ers, not necessarily the NFL team, but the original 49ers for whom the football team is named. In 1848, there was this gold deposit discovered. News got out, and so in spring of 1849, thousands and thousands of fortune seekers flocked to California when they heard that gold had been discovered. It was a get-rich-quick scheme. Now think about this. Picture your typical slave owner. What are you usually able to say about a slave owner's economic status? that they're rich or better, that they're doing well for themselves. What can you say about people that are get-rich-quick fortune seekers? They're usually not rich. And so, even though, if you look at the new territory gained under the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, right? Prime farmland for plantations? Probably, yeah. False, it is not. A lot of mountain and desert, right? Right. A lot of mountain and desert. And therefore, California was held out as the plum of the new pickings, of the place where plantation agriculture might be most successful. It would have the best chance for strong agriculture. And so slave owners and expansionists had their eye on it. This gold rush threw a wrench in it because, boom, in 1 year, it went from a few thousand people to the requisite, I believe, 60,000. That's less than the population of Lee Summit today. With just 60,000 people, they were able to apply for statehood, and there were virtually no slaves or slave owners in the state because the tens of thousands of people were poor people looking to get rich quick. And so California skips over all the states in between practically because Kansas is not even a state yet, right? Think of that huge area that's skipped over. And California applies. And so popular sovereignty is what is currently applying. They haven't really decided this because what was the decision governing the Louisiana Territory with regard to slave versus free? The Missouri Compromise said that no slave states would be admitted north of Missouri's southern border, which left just Arkansas. But there had not yet been any discussion of California. In fact, there was discussion, remember, before the war was even won. What was that called? Look back at your notes. Right before the war started. What was the proposal to ban slavery from any territory may be gained from Mexico? Is it Wilmot? The Wilmot Proviso? The David Wilmot, and they debated it. The House passed it, the Senate blocked it. So there was left with no agreement on what was to be done with new territory gained from Mexico. In response to this, we'll see what was called the Great Compromise of 1850. But before we get to this, I want to talk briefly and in depth about the possible positions on the issue of slavery.